Welcome to Season 3 of The Broken Banquet. Ashley's settled in Houston. I'm still in Costa Rica. But we're both really excited about bringing you more conversations about missions. We hope you'll enjoy this episode.
Darrell, let me introduce you to my one of my best friends in the whole wide world. His name is Will Bailey. It says Josiah up there, and that's his first name, but he goes by his middle name, Will. So you can call him Will, or you can call him Josiah, whichever you prefer. But he is a missionary, and he's serving and living in Costa Rica. He's been there for about 20 years, and he and his wife and his daughter are there. And I couldn't wait for you two to meet because I think that you're really going to like each other. So
wonderful.
Will, meet Darrell.
Hello, Darrell. It's nice to meet you.
And Will, who are you working with down there in Costa Rica?
I was invited here by the Evangelical Methodist Church of Costa Rica.
Lomo.
That's right. The church where I grew up in North Carolina started a relationship with the Methodist Church here about 35 years ago. And so I just kind of grew up in the church and started coming down with volunteer teams and learned Spanish and wound up sort of becoming the default translator for our teams, which meant I really started to get to know a lot of the people here and then church leaders here and eventually Don Fernando. And by the time I was finishing up with seminary and living here with a pastor and his family, he invited me to come back when I was done with school and work kind of as a bridge between their churches and our churches. And yeah, I took him up on it. Been here ever since.
So you would know Ray and Lydia Zirkel.
Absolutely. They're heroes of mine. Actually, during that summer that I lived here with a pastor and his family, when we started realizing sort of what was happening, the pastor that I was living with recommended that I go spend a weekend with Ray and with Steve Gober, who was here at the time. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Steve, but
he was also in my class.
So I got to just really pick their brains, and they gave me some wonderful guidance about kind of what things to sort of look forward to and how to go about it all. So very thankful for them. And I don't see the Zirkles often, but about once a year we bump into each other, usually at annual conference. And really appreciate the two of them. And
well, Ray and Lydia met in my anthropology class.
Oh, yeah.
And they drank the poison, the Whiteman poison of incarnational identification.
Yep.
And it ruined your life.
Yeah, I've been reading about that. So I hear you.
It's a great book, isn't it, Will?
It is. You know, there's Ashley has made me read a bunch of books over the course of this podcast that I think, man, I really wish I had read those in 2002 before I came here. But thankfully, I was immediately surrounded by a community of very patient Costa Ricans who have been nurturing me along ever since.
So the people who get the most out of that book and the most out of my courses are people who have already had a substantial amount of cross-cultural experience. Mm-hmm. Without it, it just kind of goes over your head. But if you've had it and you hear this stuff, you say, that's what I experienced. Now that makes sense why I felt that way. And so I'm glad you've been introduced. I'm glad it was useful for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I feel like we should start at the beginning. Hi, Darrell. We're so glad that you're on the Broken Banquet podcast today.
I'm glad to be here, as always.
One of the things that I love to do and what we're doing this season 3, is I am introducing to Will all of my new friends from the Woodlands Methodist Church that I've met through our missions ministry. And it's an opportunity for not only me to introduce you to Will, because I think that any connections we could have are great, but also for me to continue getting to know our partners well. So why don't we start there? Why don't you just give us the short little bio of who you are, Darrell? Now, I know that you've got a lot of goodness all wrapped up into you. So just tell us the highlights, maybe.
Well, okay. I retired in 2014 from the Mission Society. And even though I was retired, I wasn't finished. And I realized for the first time in 38 years, I had no institutional support to help me continue to do teaching and training around the world. My passion is training people for cross-cultural ministry. And so I founded this nonprofit organization called Global Development. And after 6 months, I'd raised all of $900, 500 of which had come from my close friend and colleague from Asbury Seminary. And so I was pretty discouraged. I said, oh, this isn't going anywhere. And John Hall, who was the mission pastor that you have followed at the Woodlands United Methodist Church at the time, called United Methodist, said, well, we really believe in what you're doing, and we're going to help you. And lo and behold, they did. They agreed to support me for a 3-year period for a substantial amount, $10,000. And after those 3 years ran out, they did it again. And you've done it a third time.
Genius.
So this is just a wonderful relationship I've had with the Woodlands for a long time, probably going back. I think the first time I spoke there was in the old building, and that would have been November 1998. That's a long time ago. You weren't even born yet, Ashley.
Oh, I was. I had graduated high school already. Well, that's a beautiful relationship, and I'm thankful to be a part of that relationship now as we continue walking together through whatever God would have before us. And I think what I appreciated so much about our time together when you and I spoke last was hearing your story about how God called you into anthropology instead of going the medical route, which I think a lot of members of your family had done. Can you talk about that, of what it has meant to you to be a Christian in the anthropology world?
Yeah. Well, let me back up a little bit.
Sure. You back up. Tell all the stories.
Growing up in the Free Methodist Church, we had this, what I would call a spiritual pyramid. Missionaries were at the very, very top. Pastors were underneath them in terms of degrees of spirituality, right? And lay people were at the bottom. So, of course, I wanted to aim for the top. So I wanted to be a missionary. Well, not all missionaries are equal. Some are more spiritual than others. And the ones that were the most spiritual missionaries in the church I was growing up in were medical missionaries. So I thought, aha, I'm going to be a medical missionary. Now, what I love about this story is that God always starts with where we are, with our mixed up motives, our egocentrism, and transforms us into what God wants us to become, and plans a life that is far richer, more rewarding than we ever could have mapped out if we had tried. So I started. I'm kind of a B+ student, so I had to work hard to get all A's to get into medical school. And in my junior year, I transferred to Seattle Pacific College. And I got a new advisor who had been a Free Methodist missionary in India for 25 years. His name was Dr. Frank Klein. He had been a friend of our families for many, many years. So he knew me in terms of my relationship to him through our families. So I said, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, well, I'm planning on being a medical missionary. He said, well, that's good. He said, then you better take a course in anthropology. I said, anthropology? I have never, ever heard the term, never heard the word. So I fumbled around. I says, well, is that the study of bugs? I want to be a medical missionary deep in the jungles, stomping through the steaming jungles to reach the teeming millions. That was kind of my model.
Love it.
And he says, no, that's not the study of bugs. It's the study of people and their cultures and language. Now, Ashley and Will, it's hard to believe that I asked this question, but I said, oh, is that important? Do I need to know that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It never occurred to me that might be significant. He said, trust me, after 25 years in India, that is important. Yeah. So I took these courses, took the first course, and was amazed at how this discipline fit me as a person. I mean, it was hand in glove. I'd never experienced anything like that. So I gobbled up everything I could. And then graduated in 1969 the height of the Vietnam War. And in that time, my church asked me to go to the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and help restart the Free Methodist mission there along the edge of Lake Tanganyika in a small little village called Baraka. So they needed 2 young men who were expendable. And so I volunteered. I mean, if I'm going to die, I might as well die with honor.
Exactly. That's
instead of Vietnam War.
Going for Jesus.
And so off I went. And the first 6 months, I was pretty sure I was going to apply and come back and go to medical school at the end of my 2 years, because I saw so much human suffering. HIV/AIDS had not yet invaded the continent. And I thought, this is really worth giving my life to. Well, we didn't last all that long either. Another rebel uprising occurred, and we literally escaped with our lives in the middle of the night. From the Congo, we took a boat and went up to the top of Lake Tanganyika, and then transferred over to Rwanda, where we finished out our time. So as I was watching my missionary colleagues, they'd been there 10, 15, 25, 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so busy, what I call doing their Bibles, books, and Band-Aids, the 3 avenues of mission, that they seemed to have little time or little interest in really understanding the African people at this deep worldview level.
Mm-hmm.
It was as they were busy creating their programs, and one of the things they were trying to create was essentially duplicating the Free Methodist Church from Winona Lake, Indiana, in the middle of Africa.
Wow.
So, for example, the first thing they translated was the Book of Discipline. Well, that's great for Indiana, but what does that have to do with Rwandans? So I just became a little testy. I mean, I was polite, but I took this 2-year assignment asking God to use this time to help me decide what to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm 22 years old. What am I going to do? So as I watched my missionary colleagues, I realized over time that I could make a greater contribution as an anthropologist than as a medical doctor. Now, I have no idea where that idea came from, except from the Holy Spirit. So the day came when I announced to my colleagues that I was going to come back to the United States, marry my wife, Lori, of 53 years now.
Congratulations.
And go to graduate school in anthropology. Well, how do you think they responded? They said 2 things. The first thing they said is, well, you'll probably lose your faith. We've never yet met a Christian anthropologist. Those 2 things don't go together. They're oil and water. Mm-hmm. Why do you think you can become the first one? Well, later I discovered why they were concerned, because statistically they were correct. Anthropology as an academic discipline has the least number of Christians of almost all other disciplines. Philosophy and psychology are close behind, but anthropology is the number 1 discipline for atheists and agnostics.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
As a graduate student, I have met really quite a number of missionaries who did exactly that, lost their faith in the process of getting their degree in anthropology. So that's the first thing they said. Then the second thing they said, even if you survive, you'll have this fancy degree and what's left of your faith, there's nothing of value in anthropology for cross-cultural mission. And I didn't know what to do with that.
Challenge accepted.
Well, I decided that I wasn't going to respond to their critique. I was going to go on ahead and do what I felt God was leading me to do. I wrote a 10 to 12 page paper just reflecting on my time there, and sent it back to my advisor, Dr. Frank Klein at Seattle Pacific. He wrote me and said, wow, I can't believe this insight is coming from a 24-year-old kid. Now, the Free Methodist Mission Board wrote me and said, thank you for having the maturity of not sharing this with anybody else. They were furious with my report. Well, they were too late. I'd already sent it. And Frank Klein said, you just don't have the language. He says, what you're doing, you are becoming a missiological anthropologist. How the 2 go together so well. Later, by the way, Frank Klein would marry Lori and me.
Oh.
And at our wedding, he put his hands on us and he made this prayer, Lord, we are anointing this man and this woman for your kingdom work around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he was on. So I would say I entered what I call a 10-year wilderness. My church turned their back on me. Literally, really.
Yeah.
I was in Thailand last week, and one of my former students, who's a Free Methodist missionary in China, and I told him a bit of this story, and he said, oh, my goodness, we need to apologize to you. I said, well, no, the Lord used that. Wow. So it was a lonely time, but over the years, I've seen how anthropology makes sense out of my faith, and my faith gives meaning to my anthropology. Mm-hmm. And the two just go beautifully together. Now, being aware of this conflict between anthropology and faith, and every once in a while bumping into these young graduate students who were trying to hang on to their faith, in 1989, I founded the Network of Christian Anthropologists. Okay. And we meet every year at the big gathering of 6,000 anthropologists. You can always tell when they're in town because everyone's got a beard and wearing Birkenstocks.
Classic.
And that network has really helped these graduate students who thought they were the only Christians in the world, and these isolated professors. So I've continued to be active in the world of anthropology. Now, in my retirement, I don't, because I don't have money for that. But at one of those conferences, I was giving a paper, and when it was over, a graduate student came up to me and she says, I'm kind of hesitant to ask you this, but are you a Christian? I said, well, in those days, I said yes. Today, I would say, no, I'm a follower of Jesus. But I said, yes, I am. I said, why do you ask? She says, well, I could just sense that there was something more to you than just an anthropologist. I said, well, that's the Holy Spirit at work. Mm-hmm. So those are how the two things have gone together. And I wish there were more of us, but there are not. There are very, very few. I think about 10 to 12 in the world.
Wow.
Who have PhDs in anthropology and have used that training in the service of mission. Yeah. And 5 or 6 of us got together for a conference last February, and the presentations of those are all being published in about a month in the International Journal of Frontier Missiology.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know about that. It's going to be good stuff. Yeah. So anyway, that's anthropology and mission and my faith. I'm 100% anthropologist and 100% follower of Jesus. And the two go together just fine. Yeah.
It's such an interesting dynamic to think about, just that tension, unfortunately, that I guess sort of stops a lot of people in their tracks and makes them think, well, yeah, you can't, there's no overlap between those two things. And I wonder, just sort of off the top of my head, it just seems like an incredible lack of humility on our part, and sort of feeds into the old, I mean, I hate to generalize too much. If the point of mission is to go out into the world and make everyone look like us, then there really is no need for anthropology and that vision for mission in the world, right? If that's what it means to be Christ's witnesses.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I know Ashley and I certainly, I think probably all three of us are pretty uncomfortable with that understanding, with that being the point of mission. Mm-hmm. So if we're willing to think more carefully about it, then, I mean, to me, it just makes so much sense that there's incredible wisdom in an anthropological understanding of other people that God created in other places, and the ways that God has been revealing himself to those other people in other places, that we'll never understand. It's going to be hard enough already, but if we can't grab onto the kinds of tools that you're accessing as an anthropologist, we're never going to get close to it. So to me, that's the fascinating part, is I could just go into a place that I'm completely unfamiliar with and see signs and wonders happening in front of my eyes and say, wow, signs and wonders, and then go home. But if I can come back into that same space, having some understanding of culture and language and tradition and history, those signs and wonders are going to mean something completely different to me as a witness to them. And so if that's true, then holy cow, what a loss to miss out on all that. And especially, I mean, it's just shameful if the reason why we're missing out on all of that is just because of ego, because we think that the gospel means gringos go out into the world and make everybody gringos.
We come to it naturally and easily because we are all ethnocentric. We all know what an egocentric person is. They come in very small packages because they're all wrapped up in themselves. Well, ethnocentrism is sin writ large in my book. And ethnocentrism says that we have the best understanding of how the world works. The way we do things is the best way, the correct way, and we evaluate every other way on the basis of that. Well, we've taken, in my mind, ethnocentrism as Americans, but we've also taken a form of ethnocentrism in terms of ecclesiocentrism. We think our church does the best job of anybody else. I mean, growing up in the Free Methodist Church, I knew that God had revealed God's self more clearly to Free Methodists than anybody else. Absolutely. I mean, Baptists, they were in the ball game, but way out in left field. Actually, right field.
There you
Oh, gosh.
So you're absolutely correct that we do not need to be afraid of God's creation expressed in this multitude of cultures and languages. It's all a part of God's design. And I see culture as a gift of God's grace. Many missionaries see culture as the enemy of the gospel. The enemy of the gospel is the enemy, not culture. But I think you have to arrive at some sort of basic understanding of this. And I think cross-cultural living is required before we really start to see some of this, before we can really understand the value of that. But these days, I'm working with non-Westerners. I spend all my time with Chinese and Indians. And Will, you will be surprised maybe to hear this, but they need this anthropological understanding as much as anybody. They've never heard it before. And over again, people say, why haven't we heard this before? And that's the reason I end up writing the book, because they've never heard it before. And yet it's so obvious that this is such a natural connection. How do we become followers of Jesus and spread that news around the world and live that news around the world in ways that make sense to the people to whom we go?
Well, Darrell, that's a perfect segue. I mean, why don't we just segue right into, you wrote a beautiful book called Crossing Cultures with the Gospel. It's brand new. I think number one that I've loved about the book is that you've never referred to anybody in the book as a missionary. You've referred to them as witnesses.
Cross-cultural witness.
Cross-cultural witness. And I love that because it goes back to Acts 1 verse 8 when Jesus says, "You will be my witnesses." And I want to make the connection. Will's ministry in Costa Rica is called Acts 1-8 Missions. Oh. And I love putting that together of we are all, no matter who we are, where we're from, we were all created to be witnesses of power. Once we've had an encounter with our good and gracious God, we have been sent as witnesses to witness to that change and the transformation that we've had in our life. So I love that you use the word cross-cultural witnesses.
Well, the word missionary conjures up in many people's minds colonialism, imperialism. It's just not a helpful word today. 70 years ago, growing up in the Free Methodist Church, missionary was a very positive word. Oh, my goodness. Everyone wanted to be a missionary. Well, these days, your generation and younger, man, that is a negative word. So I picked up this idea of cross-cultural witness 30, 40 years ago, and now it's the only word I use. And I go back to Acts 1:8. Jesus says two things. Hang out in Jerusalem until you're filled with the power of the Holy Spirit. Man, that's important. We oftentimes just want to rush out for Jesus, and we don't have what if we need. So wait until you receive the Holy Spirit, and then I want you to be my witnesses right here at home, Jerusalem, in your region, in your area, Judea, in Samaria. Now, where is our Samaria? Samaria is geographically close and culturally and religiously distant. We have Samaritans living right next door to us. They're in our community. Sometimes we're married to them.
Well, that's good.
So they're geographically close. Now, in Jesus' day, Samaria is a place you would rather go around than go straight through. You avoided Samaria at all costs. So our communities in multicultural America today are full of Samaritans, people who are geographically close and culturally and religiously distant. And then the fourth category is, and to the ends of the earth. Now, in my mind, every church needs to be involved in all four: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And if your church isn't doing all of those four areas of cross-cultural witness, then something's wrong. Now, besides Acts 1:8, which is one of my favorite Great Commissions, my favorite one is John 20:21. As the Father sent me, I am sending you. But everyone else uses Matthew 28:8-20. Go, go, go. In fact, that's what's on this
Right on.
this T-shirt. You see?
Well, I just got our new verse for our next T-shirt, so thanks. Okay.
Don't go so fast. Slow down. You would know the name E. Stanley Jones, the great Methodist missionary to India, friend of Gandhi's. He often said, God calls us to be God's witnesses, not God's lawyers. And so often we want to be the prosecuting attorney. We want to be the lawyer that condemns and critiques. No, be God's witnesses. So I oftentimes think of mission as telling the story of Jesus. That's the witness part. And living as if you believed it was really true. Telling the story of Jesus and living as if you believed it was really true.
Mm-hmm.
The two have to go together.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Oh, good. I like it when you have thoughts.
Well, I appreciate what you said about a church having to do all four. And that's something that I talk to. We have partners in the States who on a regular basis are sending volunteers to come and be a part of what we're doing here in Costa Rica. And I'll always ask, especially when new churches come, ask them while they're here. So tell me about the local missions that you guys do. And sometimes it's just like crickets chirping.
That's right.
I think, man, if this is it, if this is the extent of your church's vision for mission, then we're not going to have a very long relationship with you because it's just not sustainable. There has to be balance. And my favorite thing about Acts 1:8 is that Jesus doesn't use the word or in that verse. He doesn't say you'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem or Judea or Samaria or to the ends of the earth. It's all of it.
He doesn't say pick which one is the easiest.
Right. Yeah, or the most exciting, because it's really exciting to go to the ends of the earth. Sometimes it's not very exciting to be Christ's witness in your front yard.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and this is something that, and I'm really thinking about this right now, just because I just got back 2 days ago from a mission trip with 17 members of our church here in Costa Rica. We were in North Carolina for a week, and they were being cross-cultural witnesses in North Carolina for a week. These are all Costa Ricans. Most of them hadn't left the country before. And the reason we do that is because it dawned on me years ago that sitting in our church here in Costa Rica on a Sunday morning, and there was a team of volunteers that was there worshiping with us that Sunday. And I realized that for the young people in our church, young Costa Ricans who were growing up in the church, what missions meant to them was people from somewhere else coming here into my community.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, we are really giving them a distorted understanding of what Acts 1:8 means. And I felt the burden, if I'm the one who is opening the doors for people to come in from outside, I also need to be opening doors for people from here to go outside. And so we started, after Hurricane Katrina, we started taking, I'm going to just start calling them cross-cultural witness teams now, from Costa Rica to the United States.
Please.
And we had a wonderful week in Charlotte, North Carolina, leading worship in a local church and praying with families, visiting homes. We were able to go up to the North Carolina mountains for a couple of days and help with some of the hurricane relief that's going on up there. But just to me, that sort of balance comes into play there, because when our partner churches come here, for them, they're going to the ends of the earth. Well, for me, this is our Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And when we go there, then these Costa Ricans, I'm sure, feel like they went to the ends of the earth last week. But for the church that hosted us in Charlotte that we were in ministry with last week, that's their Jerusalem. Yeah. And so that kind of relationship, that kind of reciprocity is going to force us to live into that balance of Acts 1:8. We can't get away with just picking one or the other. So that's why it just means so much to me that that's part of who we are as a ministry, is looking for those opportunities.
Good for you. How did the Americans receive you?
It was fantastic. Now, this is a church that we've had a relationship with for 21 years. So there were so many people in the church that have come here and been a part of this ministry over the years that they couldn't wait for us to get there. One of the reasons why we went was because the youth and young adults from that church for the last 3 years have just had some incredibly profound worship experiences here, and asked if we could bring our worship team from here to do a big activity at their church. So that's what our whole trip kind of revolved around that. So they were super hospitable. It was incredible. Of course, we spent most of our devotional times in the evenings. The first couple of days were spent talking about things like wealth and affluence, because they're seeing things that they've just, I mean, even for me, the community we were in, I was just like, wow. And so you can imagine for these Costa Ricans who, had never left the country before, it was pretty over the top. And so we talked through some of that stuff, talked about hospitality. Is it oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. Is it the Sunamite woman who, prepared her home for Elias and just preparing the best of everything so that space was ready for him. And we sing a song, La Mujer Sunamita, in church on a regular basis. And I was like, guys, this is what we are on the receiving end. Like, they are pouring their very best into us while we're here, but we are also going to pour our best into them. So it was just, there were so many different dynamics.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that they were hospitable and receptive to you, because sometimes Americans have the attitude, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But did you realize that America is the number 2 receiving country for mission? The number 1 sending, the number 2 receiving.
Wow.
The number 1 receiving is India.
Really?
Yeah, most people have no idea of that. Now, the thing I like about what you said, Will, and the thing that bothers me about short-term mission trips is that we're still hesitant to go to Samaria. We would much rather go to the ends of the earth and skip around, literally go around in our own neighborhood, our own next door neighbor. We'd rather go to Kenya than to have a conversation with an African American in our own community. That bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I would agree. I've observed that completely in every place that I've lived. Yeah.
And the more affluent the community is, the worse the problem is.
Mm.
We go to their place and their poverty overwhelms us. They come here and our affluence just blows them away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, for me, that's part of the burden that I think I bear as sort of the coordinator or host or whatever. I mean, I think a lot of what I am is a teacher. And so when we have teams that are here with us, and I spend Sunday morning talking to them about our vision for this ministry and the 5 things that I expect to happen while they're here are worship, prayer, fellowship, service, and witness, and the relationships that can be born out of that and all that kinds of stuff. When I get to the end of it, one of the last things I'll say is, now, nothing that I said this morning is specific to Costa Rica. Every single thing that I said better be present in our vision for missions and ministry is just as true in the town that you guys left to come here to be with us.
No.
So if what you feel and experience while you're here this week resonates, good. Now do the hard work of figuring out how to translate this experience into something relevant in your community, because we don't get to just pick and choose. That's not part of the deal.
You are redeeming short-term mission trips.
That's my goal in life. No, it's a strange space for me to live in because I completely understand and agree with most of the critiques about short-term missions. Ashley, she's had me on here doing interviews with people that when I read their books, I wanted to kind of take them out back. But I get it. And we need to really be paying close attention to this stuff. But I think there are ways that we can go about this that are helpful and healthy and give us these glimpses of the kingdom. And that's what this whole podcast is about. I mean, the reason why we call it the broken banquet is because we recognize that this banquet that we've all been invited to is broken. We've done a terrible job of being faithful with that invitation. Mm-hmm. Are there things that we can do in our local churches, in our relationships with ministries, with missionaries around the world that can play a part in repairing some of the brokenness in the banquet? And so if we can't, if the answer to that is no, then I've just wasted the last 21 years of my life. And I guess I better go find another job. So
I knew you two were going to hit it off. See, this is why I love introducing people I love to people I love. This is great.
Ashley, do you love me already?
I mean, I got home and I told my husband, I was like, I just had the best day.
Well, I said several things to my wife.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I said, this new missions pastor at the Woodlands, she's got her act together. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been telling her that all along. Thank you. So I do have a question for you specifically about the book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, especially, like I said, when we first got on, after being here for as long as I have, there's a lot of stuff in it that I really can relate to looking back over the years of sort of different stages I've been through. I was so blessed to walk right into a community that had invited me here, was expecting me to be here, and then did a lot of the hard work of making me feel at home and all of that kind of stuff. So there's some of the really difficult kinds of culture shock that I never had to deal with, thank goodness. But my question is this, because I can read a book like this kind of from two different angles. I can read it from the perspective of a long-term cross-cultural witness who has been in the field for as long as I have and see the value in so many of the things that you're pointing out. But then I can't help but think about the volunteers that come down every year to be a part of this, who are here for 7 days, and they're not going to go through a lot of this, the culture shock challenges and that kind of stuff. So what are the things from this kind of book that you think can be really useful and helpful and a blessing to people who are preparing for that kind of experience? Some of them are going to come for a week and we're never going to see them again. Thank goodness a lot of them come year after year after year. It's just for a week at a time. So I think there's some of the stuff, some of those challenges that they don't have to really deal with, but there are some, when the bus is 20 minutes late and people are getting bent out of shape. And I'm like, when he's 45 minutes late, I'll call him. But those kind of things, can kind of get people a little bit sideways. So what are the things that you think in a book like this are, helpful for someone that's preparing, that someone Ashley is getting ready to bring on a mission trip somewhere for a week or 10 days?
Okay, good question. When I was a professor at Asbury, I attended Centenary United Methodist Church in Lexington, and they had never done much in terms of mission work, mission teams and stuff. But we had a wonderful young Brazilian pastor, João Carlos Lopes from Brazil, who would later go on to become a bishop there, who was attending the church with us. And so we were going to go to his city of Londrina. I was the chair of the mission committee, and I says, well, we're going to train and prepare for this. Now, most preparation is a weekend thing about how to pack your bags. I said, we're going to spend 3 months. 3 months? I said, yes, 3 months, 12 weeks. We're going to meet for 3 hours every Sunday afternoon for 12 weeks. Well, they just thought that was crazy, but they agreed to do it. So on the very first time we met, there were 15 on the team. We went around the table. I said, now, why do you want to go to Brazil? Here was the common response. Well, we want to go and help those poor people. They don't have anything. We want to go help them. I said, okay. So I just make note of that. I don't say anything, just take notes. 11 weeks later, we're 1 week away from getting ready to go. So what are you looking forward to? Why do you want to make this trip? Wow, we can hardly wait to get there because we're going to learn so much from these people. We're going to be able to see where God's already at work. There was nothing about helping these poor people. What had happened in 12 weeks? That whole thing had turned upside down. Now they were going as learners, not as teachers or knowers. They were going expecting to see the Holy Spirit already at work. Not we're taking, like that terrible T-shirt on an airplane I saw one day, taking Jesus from Texas to Costa Rica. Oh!
I think I might have been in the airport at the same time, because when I saw that T-shirt, I swore that we would never have mission trip T-shirts ever again. Ever. Buddy.
What color was the T-shirt?
It was like a neon green or pink or something. It was neon.
It was yellow.
Okay.
I would tell my driver to just leave them, just act like you don't even see them, turn around, come home, and just let somebody else deal with them for the week. Oh my gosh.
Here's where my book, I think, can be helpful to short-termers. One is to develop a posture of a learner. And the whole section on incarnational identification, yes, that is a posture for long-term people. It's also a posture for a person going for a week. We go with the attitude of humility. We go with the attitude of what we're going to learn. At the back of the book, there's a whole section on there about, well, how can we learn to be better communicators? And there's a whole section there about how to observe, how to ask questions, and why can't we teach short-term people those kinds of things so that they go with entirely different attitude. And if the attitude is right, then God will be able to bless it beyond their imagination. But if the attitude is, we're going to help these poor people and we have nothing to learn, and frankly, a lot of it is just, I'm going for the adventure. So I actually call it mission tourism.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Because that's really kind of what it is.
Sure. And I mean, perfectly 100% honesty, when I signed up for my first mission trip at age 16, without any of the training or any of the introduction, it was my goal to get out of the country, get out of my city, see new things, have a little adventure.
It looks good on your resume and helps you get into college.
Exactly. Little did I know that within the first 24 hours that my life would be changed forever. But
I've heard that one before. Yeah. So I think the other valuable thing I think of this book for short term is the focus on friendship. I mean, building friendships cross-culturally is just such a wonderful and rich experience. And you can start to do that in a week, 10 days. You really can.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. I've kind of was anti short-term mission trip for a long time, and I realized it's here to stay. It's not going away. So how can I help it become better? And that's my posture these days. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Darrell, what I think is going to come out of this podcast is you and I are going to get together and we're going to film a few videos. Like, you're going to fly down to the Woodlands and we're going to film a few videos so that we can have cross-cultural witness team training.
Ashley,
our team, man, I wrote it down. I was like, you will be my witnesses, cross-cultural witness teams. So,
but that's, I mean, even that language, it's something we've talked about before. We had, when Brian Fickert was on, and we were talking about just how problematic that label of short-term mission trip is. And so I described to him basically how we spend the week when Ashley comes down here with the group and the things that happen during that experience. And there's very little construction work. I mean, you're not coming here to build stuff. So it's so what do we call it? What can we name it? And I think we kind of had a hard time, but maybe we're onto something. Maybe it's cross-cultural witness.
We are going to learn cultural differences. We're going to learn where the Holy Spirit's already at work. I mean, that's good Wesleyan theology. Prevenient grace is already at work long before we get there.
Yeah, I said that a lot. We're not going where God is not already.
Yeah.
We're not bringing Jesus anywhere. Jesus is already there. We're just going to join him in the work that he's doing.
So some response to that, then why bother to go?
Right.
Well, Acts 1:8 is a pretty good answer to that. Again, there's no or in that verse. You just give us a choice in the matter. I think that's and to me, this whole idea of building healthy, abiding relationships, you can't build a relationship with someone if you're not spending time with them. And so that's the fruit of what we're trying to do, is create a situation where Ashley can come here and spend time with her brothers and sisters in Costa Rica in a way that Ashley is blessed by being here. The Costa Ricans are blessed by her being here. And over time, the relationship defines the things that Ashley does, rather than the things that Ashley does defining the relationships. And once we can flip that switch, that's when I think it becomes an abiding relationship. And we may wind up doing the exact same things that people who come down for the wrong reasons do, but they can mean something different if the actions are born out of a relationship where people were listened to, where people have ownership, where people are empowered. And maybe we will, but we just finished helping a community build a church. It's a new church start, and there's no way that they were going to be able to build the church all by themselves. So the bishop of the church here asked us if we would partner with this community. And so we did those things that are kind of on the posters for short-term mission trips, but we didn't do them just because I decided there's no church in this community, we're going to build a monument to ourselves because they need one. It was because of the relationship that we have with the Methodist Church of Costa Rica, with this particular community, because of the trust that exists and the communication that exists among us. This was just a natural fruit of that abiding relationship. And I think that matters. I hope it does. If not, then I don't know what I'm doing. But I think it's the friendships. And I mean, gosh, Ashley, how many times have we talked about faithful friendships and committed relationships and all those kinds of words to describe what it is that we're trying to create with these long-term missional relationships?
Well, the other thing that's really important in my mind is ownership of the receiving community of what we're doing. So one of the worst stories I've heard is from Brazil. A mission team came down, built this church for this community. They didn't ask for it, but it was something for them to do. That was fine. About 5 years later, the tin roof, which they put on, they should have used sago palm leaves, but they put a tin roof, got a hole, got a leak, and it was leaking. So the community sends a letter back to the Americans. Would you please come back and fix the roof in your church? In your church.
Oh, that's terrible.
Doesn't that say it all?
Yeah.
So we've got to avoid that at all costs.
Well, I have to say, and this is something that I was reflecting on recently, everything that we do now in year 21 of Acts 1:8 missions has been dictated to us by the community that we're in. The daycare center that we have, it's not because I moved down here fresh out of seminary dreaming of having a child care center. The counseling program that we have, that was not on my radar. All of the areas of ministry that we are involved in this community, we're involved in because over the course of the last 20 years, the community has said to us, these are things that we think would be really good for us to do together. So that's what determines, what we're going to do. Yeah. I would be horrified if anyone in any of the communities we worked with ever thought that something we had done in that community was ours and not theirs.
Yeah. Well, I wish your tribe would increase. We don't have a lot of people who think like you.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, don't give up.
Well, Darrell, this has been the best, and I want to be cognizant of your time, and because I know how we'll just keep.
This was on schedule for today. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Is there anything else, Will, from the book that you wanted to chat about? Were there a couple of other things that you had?
Nothing specific, just how excited I am to have one more book that I can add to the reading list that I send to our teams. You mentioned Sherwood Lingenfelter's ministering cross-culturally in here a couple of times, which that book was a revelation to me. When it was recommended to me years ago, I was really in a funk. There was so much anti-short-term mission stuff coming out that I was just really felt like I was kind of getting it from all sides. And so that book was just a breath of fresh air for me. And so that's number one on the reading list that I send to any church that's going to work with us of, kind of how to prepare. And so I'm always looking for more good stuff that I can recommend people to spend some time with before they come. So I'm really thankful to have Crossing Cultures with the Gospel on that list now. So thank you.
Sherwood's book is one of the great ones, and it's now in its third edition. Now, in the first two editions, the title was Incarnational Relationships or something like that. And he got a lot of pushback from theologians, said, no, the incarnation only happened once, and you're misusing it. And so he took it out of his third edition. I don't think he took the spirit out, but he took the language out. And I want to capture that language because because we are to be like Jesus. Jesus was incarnational. What does it mean for us to be incarnational? It's pretty simple, and I like that model. But yeah, Sherwood is one of those rare missiological anthropologists. Mm-hmm. Both he and his wife have PhDs in anthropology, and they've used their training in the service of mission and the church.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Darrell. Thank you. Thank you for just spending time with us today.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I mean, you don't always get to talk to people who really understand what you're talking about.
Well, is there anything that you wish that we had asked you?
I really do hope that more and more people will discover this book. Mm-hmm. It's being translated now into Spanish, Korean, Hindi, and Chinese.
Wow.
It's already sold 1,000 copies. It just seems to be taking off. And the book review published in Christianity Today in April seemed to really go a long ways. And so it's a gift that God gave me. And I had a burden for years and years, realizing if I died, this would die with me. And so it was really a burden to finally get down. It took me 5 years to write the book, and it was difficult. In the middle of it, I lost my confidence.
Okay.
I thought, this has all been said before. Paul Hebert said it in 1985 with Anthropological Insights for Missionaries. What's new here? And I know that was the evil one whispering in my ear, but eventually I realized, no, this is a gift that God has given the church and given it through me, and I have to step up to the plate and do my work.
I'm glad you did.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. It's been an honor, I think, for both of us, but for me to be able to actually talk to the people who have written the books that mean so much to me. I'm never going to write a book. So what I'm going to be able to leave the world is my list of books that I read that I think everyone else should read. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I hope our paths will cross again at some point. And God bless you for what you're doing and just for helping folks understand. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a real joy for me. Made my day already.
Awesome.
Well, Will, great job interviewing. It's always a pleasure to spend an afternoon with you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Well, bye, Will.
Bye, Ashley. Bye, Darrell.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Broken Banquet, a podcast by Will Bailey and Ashley Goad. Music provided by Irene and the Sleepers. Join us next week for another episode. He's prepared the table. All things are ready. Come to the feast.